and efficient learner. Today we'll be focusing on stress and how that makes learning difficult and what you can do about this to make learning more fun and, well, less stressful. Okay, so let's look at the first slide. Uh, this slide is from Harvard University, and it shows the difference between the neurons, okay, the brain cells of a normal person who is not under much stress. Everybody has a little stress. That's normal. So up here, that's what they mean about normal, okay? A normal amount of stress. Down here, it says toxic stress. This is a high level of stress that just keeps coming, and the person doesn't have time or the support network or the knowledge of how to deal with the stress, and it just keeps getting worse. That is called toxic stress. Okay. Now, if you look at the neurons here and the connections, it's very, very different, isn't it? Let me blow that up a bit here. So again, this is the normal up on top. You see all these connections, how the neuron is branching out, just like a healthy tree growing in a garden. And this is a photograph of a slice of that. Many healthy, again, like branches coming out and roots in the brain. However, the sample from the person with toxic stress, the neuron is damaged and there are fewer connections. What does that mean? It means pretty much what it sounds like it means. It's much more difficult for a person to function normally. It's more difficult to remember things. It's more difficult to come up with new ideas, coping strategies, the aha moments. Oh, that's it. Yay, I get it now. People under toxic stress have a harder time of achieving what people under a normal amount of stress can achieve. Okay. It's a major disadvantage from the biological level that connects to the psychological level. It should be taken very seriously. Now, let's look at the data from a different type of source. Again, this is from Harvard. This is research called microdevelopment. And it may be counterintuitive. Development here is going down. The top here, skill level, is the beginner. In Japanese here it says shokyu. That means, literally, it means beginner, right? And the performance or the demonstration of skill level in a novice is going up and down and up and down and up and down like this. It's very chaotic, okay? And the person, look, she looks very stressed, doesn't she? She can't get it. Now, the important thing to realize here is that this is normal. Now, it will be stressful in the beginning, but if you know that this is normal, it's normal to go up and down and up and down within a few minutes of time. Oh, I knew it. And then what? No, suddenly I can't do it anymore. And then suddenly you can do it. We go back and forth in these novice stages. If you think something's wrong with your brain, it can be very stressful. But so again, what I'm saying here is, please understand that while you're a novice, picking up a new skill, it is completely normal to not get it for quite a while. Actually, it takes time. Okay, so don't add additional unnecessary stress to the equation. Just try to keep calm and realize that this is the normal pattern. Now, in the middle here, it says Chukyu. This is intermediate. Now, once you get to the intermediate level, we start rounding off those jagged lines, and it's called scalloping. It's more rounded. We go up, and we go down, but it's much less of a crazy time. It's one way to put it. And once you notice your own performance levels are different from before, they're showing a different pattern like this, more scalloping. Yeah, you can realize and tell yourself, oh, I'm progressing. I'm now middle level, intermediate level. And that can have a nice calming effect on you as well. But then, of course, you can't be totally satisfied with yourself because sometimes you will be going down. So that little bit of pressure keeps you on your toes, but hopefully it doesn't give you any sort of toxic stress. Again, the most important thing is to realize that this is normal. And if you expect this, um, the actions you take, because this is now your expectation, uh, are quite different from people who don't understand this pattern and are still always second guessing themselves and wondering if they're doing the right thing or if they have the right teacher in front of them, and all kinds of unnecessary things might be going through their mind. Now, when the person reaches high level, it says Jokyu here, expert. So they go up to the expert level, and then, wow, look at how stable that line is. Wow. Now, the important point here is to realize that even experts have bad days or bad hours, bad minutes where they cannot perform perfectly. That always happens. And so, talking to experts, if you're an expert at some skill, don't get all stressed out just because you didn't do so well today for those few minutes or whatever that was. Again, this is normal. Expect this to happen. Now, having that expectation might make you enjoy the experience that much more because you're on your toes and maybe you can challenge yourself a little bit more. Because experts typically get bored because it's much less of a challenge for them. But knowing that it's possible to go down at some point for some reason might add a little bit of a oomph to your performances. And yeah, again, it can be helpful to know about this. And this is a reality. This has been studied over and over in all kinds of skill learning situations, and we all fit this pattern quite clearly. Okay, so it's very important to realize we go through these stages, and when you're learning something, it's good to reflect on yourself, have metacognition, and think about, where am I today? At what stage of learning, what progression am I showing recently? Yeah. Think about this graph and your performance. Okay. It can be very therapeutic and be helpful on your journey to learning new things. Now, the big question here is, when should we test? That is a very big question. And to be honest, we have all kinds of answers for this question. Now, if you say you're a teacher and you are teaching a first year class and everybody's kind of a novice, so everybody's going up and down and up and down and up and down in the classroom. Say the classroom has 30 students. Are all 30 students going up and down at the same time? No. They are going up and down, yes, during that time frame at the same time. However, their peaks and dips are all going up and down randomly. Okay, it's chaos times 30, basically. And so you could test at this moment where this student was doing very well, but maybe another student, it was the worst time for them. Okay, so when is a fair moment to give a test? Well, obviously, when you have a big classroom, there is no fair time. But even if you are a solo student, you're the only student in the classroom, and the teacher gives you a test. It could be a good moment. It could be a bad moment. Is it better to test you when you're at your peak performance, or at your lowest performance? And what do we learn from those scores? These are very important questions, but the reality is we cannot just have one single test and expect that to be very meaningful. The better solution is to have multiple small tests across, say, a semester, your learning term, and average them out and see how they map out. And yeah, oftentimes, if you're a beginner, it would be chaotic. So the scores would look something like this. Um, so the idea is to have multiple scores and see at what point do they start scalloping and what point do they start stabilizing. That is the better way to assess um, learning outcomes. It's much better than having these high stakes tests at the end that just give you one score and you don't see any development. Okay, so looking for the development curve and development trajectories per students is a much better way, I think, to test. And this is from my perspective as a person interested in cognitive development. So, of course, I would say something like that. But I truthfully believe it's a much better way to test, much fairer, and you get much more robust, real data from this style of teaching and then assessment. Now, as a student, now your job is to learn something. Now, you open a book and then you take a look at that, and immediately you might think, oh, yes, this is something I need. Okay. Yeah. You're the person on the left here. And then you have all these aha moments. Oh, yeah, it connects to this and it's that and it's sparkly. And you have all these great, wonderful ideas that come together and connect in your brain because you are interested, and your brain automatically makes these connections to other things in your past and imagining the future, how you might be using it in the future. That's a wonderful experience. I hope all students have the opportunity to find courses and content that inspires them and motivates them in this way. Unfortunately, often enough, when we open a book and we start reading a chapter, uh, sometimes we go to the right side and our brains are going, I don't need this. This is boring. Now, when a brain is bored, okay, that's pretty much the end of the story. It's very, very difficult to learn anything from that content. Now, if you're taking a course and you know you have to study this, then the worst disservice to yourself would be to allow yourself to be bored. Okay? Because that stops your brain from learning the content. Okay? So try to find ways to pick up on something that your brain might be interested in. Now, that sounds funny, perhaps. That's because our brain, we can separate the brain in many different ways, but one way of thinking about it is our brain, the front of the brain is called the prefrontal cortex. That's like the executive of the brain. It's like the CEO, the president of a company. It's living here. Okay. Now, the rest of the brain, the back of the brain, is where most of our memories are, actually. And so that's like a big company that's working well. Okay. Now, the president has his own ideas and his own thoughts, but the company goes on and does its own thing. We don't have an excellent connection between the front and back. Well, it's not as excellent as we would hope. Okay, it's kind of separated in an odd way. And this is why we're often confused about our needs and our goals and how to control ourselves in situations, because the back of the brain has all these memories and great ideas that maybe the front of your brain personally doesn't really care about. And so that is another big form of stress. Okay, so getting back to this, when you open a book, now you might open the book up and the front of your brain is saying, oh, I don't need that. But somehow convince yourself to find something interesting about it. And then the rest of the brain here will eventually latch on and find something interesting, and it will pull you over to this side. Okay? It will make learning that much easier for you. Okay? And it will be much less stressful. Okay? So do yourself a service and try to pick up on things, even if it's kind of fake at the beginning. Try to pick up on things and try to convince yourself that they're interesting. That is the short path and the efficient way to gain a better set of learning strategies for that course. Your brain will start doing that for you. Okay. Now, when we have stress, often we want to break something, we want to punch something. Uh, we all know this, right? You know what I'm talking about. Now, stress creates the motivation to get into a fight, all right? And that often comes from some sort of frustration here. In Japanese, it says, 自分の思ったようにならない. Things are not going the way you want them to go. And you're very frustrated. Now, again, it's very similar to what I was talking about. The back of the brain has its own ideas and what it wants to do today. Your front of the brain is saying, well, no, I have to do this. And so, yeah, just like in a company, like the workers maybe don't always like what the president has to say, or don't like the course of action the president is taking, and vice versa, of course, right? It works both ways. So when we have this strong stress and we're almost about to fight, we have this adrenaline rush and our muscles get bigger and we're ready to, bop somebody or maybe run away if that's the better course. Our bodies are beginning a process to change our physiology so that we can get into a fight and win the fight. Now, this is totally unnecessary for the classroom, right? We don't want that in the classroom. That's a horrible system to have come on board when you're in the classroom. If we're in the jungle and we're about to get into a fight with some wild animal there and we have to fight for our lives, yes, this is a great system to have. But no, we don't want that in the classroom. Now, having said that, culture also gives us stress in odd ways, and we don't have to be in the jungle to receive daily doses of stress-inducing situations that can be pretty bad and can be pretty harmful. Now, one such example here is this phrase, respect should be earned, not demanded. Great phrase. I like that. Yeah. It's saying, people shouldn't go out and say, hey, I did this and I did that, so you have to respect me, or I am your superior, and therefore I am your superior. You're an underling. That sort of thing is not very nice, is it? And so I like this phrase: respect should be earned, not demanded. Oh yeah, this guy is always helping people, and he has some good ideas to share if you ask him, and yeah, and if people start noticing this person is a very helpful person, then that person slowly, naturally gains respect from his or her peers, right? But now in Japan, we have this term called Confucianism, or Neo-Confucianism in Japan, which is foundational to a lot of daily choices in Japan, especially the language we use, the honor code, and the level of language that we use to superiors is different. And if you talk to a superior with lower level language, they will quickly become irritated. They might shout back at you, or they just think you're really something's really wrong with you, or um, it's not a pleasant situation to be in. And but in America, that's something it's almost unheard of, right? Or in other English-speaking countries, like my Australian friends too would totally agree. This up and down sort of thing is nonsense. You speak your mind. Now, in Japan, though, you have to really respect elders due to the effect of Confucianism. Now, when you're talking to a so-called superior and you use a tone and you use the special language designed for superiors, and you're faking your respect every day, that slowly eats away at you and gives you some sort of stress, especially for and in the times where you have to show fake respect for people that you actually don't respect. Okay, this can become a sort of toxic stressor over time, and we have to understand this and perhaps come up with strategies to cope with this if it's really eating away at you at a very strong level. So yeah, let's come back and look at this because it's a very important slide. Now, people who have learned to deal with stress and have just a normal amount of stress, look at their neuronal development. But people with the toxic stress, oh, they're doing much worse. Now, this can become a vicious cycle because maybe your superior is talking badly about you all the time and how your work performance is terrible and this and that, and you have to fake your way through this, and then it gives you even more stress. And what happens? Look here, your neurons are getting worse and worse. Okay, so that's what I mean. It's a vicious cycle, and maybe a few months later, your neurons will be in even a worse condition. Horrible. So we have to find ways to get out of that. But the important thing is to realize that this is a reality. Okay, so don't ignore it. This is real. And having that realization helps put you on the path for correction. Just knowing about it is very helpful. Okay. Now we're near the end of my content for today. At the top here, it says "mokuhyou ni taishite." So this is going towards your goal. We have learning goals in the classroom. Maybe we have learning goals at work. Maybe you have a part-time job and you have a new skill that you want to pick up. Maybe you're doing martial arts and you want to learn this technique. You want to learn how to do it better. We all have these learning goals. Now, our brains either work toward the goal or they don't, right? Now, I have a graph here that I've been using for quite a while to help people understand, to better understand the process from beginner to an expert for any of the skills that you want to pick up. At the bottom here, it says chaos. Japanese word is kondan, or chaos is pronounced kaos in Japanese. And it's kind of an empty star here. It's not even filled in. It's an empty star. And look, this woman here is very stressed out. She has no idea how to get from here to her goal up at the top. Everything is confusing, and she's lost. And definitely she needs help from people around her. Somebody will have to help her get into a high support context and a better context that would more efficiently lead her toward the goal. At the same time, she has to realize that it's perfectly normal for her to feel this stress at this stage. So she has to try to find a support network. She has to try to find a way towards the goal. Now, sometimes she'll have to do it all on her own, but the point is understanding that it's normal to feel this way at the beginning. And then here we have two stars, and the color here has changed from red to pink. It says functional alignment. So that means somehow the brain is now moving towards the goal a little bit. In Japanese, it says, なんとなくその方向に進む. So we're sort of going towards that direction. That's fine. It's perfect. It's wonderful. Because now you're out of chaos. Now you're out of chaos. The brain is now churning away strategies to get you towards that goal. That's good. That's good. That's the wonderful first step towards the right direction. Okay, you're out of the chaos land now. It's important to realize when this is happening because now you can relax a bit regarding the stress because you can look at yourself and say, hey, I'm making some sort of improvement. I'm making a movement toward that goal. And that can be highly motivational now. The natural next step up is optimal alignment. 3 stars. Yes, wow. Now you really notice. Yes, I'm doing well. I'm learning the content. If it's a textbook, yes, I understand this content and it's not difficult for me anymore and I don't feel that stress and woohoo. Yeah. And oftentimes in the classroom, this is where it ends. Okay? You get a good feeling for the content and it's much less of a challenge. You're doing pretty well. You're feeling good with yourself. And yeah, I can recall many, if not most of the courses I took in my life. I probably ended the course around here, personally. I didn't realize I could or should have gone a bit further. In some cases, it's not that important. But I'd like you to understand, because we're talking about stress and we're talking about how to make better learning strategies for you as students. There's a level above that. I call it unity. It's got the 4 stars, and now the color is turned blue. In Japanese, it says, 目標との一体化. You are now one with that goal. It is a unity. You can do the skill so well. It's a part of you now. It's really a natural process in your brain that works automatically, like riding a bicycle or something like that. It's not a theoretical level anymore. It is part of you. Especially in language, why not, right? This is probably where most of us should be going. Now, again, I don't recall being told by any teachers in my past, like when I was in high school or whatever, that this is the path that we should go on, and this understanding this will help you relieve your stress, that sort of thing. But I do believe now that this is helpful for me when I study things, when I try to learn new things. And I hope you can take this graph to heart and realize that, yeah, sometimes we could stop at level 3 optimal alignment, but then, yeah, we can go a little bit higher. But returning to the big point of this chapter, this section of the chapter is the chaotic level is the biggest stressful point for us, and understanding this hierarchy from 1, 2, 3, and to 4 will help put you on the correct path and help you be a better learner. Now, a few people in the classroom might go from chaos to running away. They'll say, oh, I don't like this content, it's boring. And that's their kind of like a defense mechanism. They give up on it and say it's boring without really ever getting aligned. Now remember what I said earlier. If you find some needs within that content, even if you're bluffing yourself, you're faking it at the beginning, parts of your brain will still start to pick up on those things. And the more you do it, the better you get at it. You will find more interesting parts about the content, and that will pull you in and it will start like a snowball effect in your brain that not only kind of like does away with a lot of the unimportant stress, it creates wonderful and efficient learning strategies within your brain that helps you become a better learner of that content. Now, once you start doing that, you'll notice that you can use these techniques for other things that you study. So it's not only about like language learning, it's not only about learning English in like my classroom, but once you start doing this, you'll start realizing, oh wow, it's applied in just about anything I want to learn. It's applicable in anything I want to learn. I hope you can get that way. You can learn to do this for yourselves with as many topics as you choose in life. Okay, so now to help cement all these ideas, I have some questions for you. This is thinking time. This is the final slide. Please put your answers in Moodle. Number one, when do you feel stress? What frustrates you? Name 3 things and why. It's important to have a metacognitive process going on here. Think about what stresses you in life. Okay? Put 3 things down. And probably the most important thing is to honestly write why they stress you out. Now, why am I asking you to write these down? Again, the front of your brain is what is the president, right? Like the president of a company. That is the part that will be giving you these answers. A and B and C give me stress, and they give me stress because of this and this and this. Allowing the front of your brain to process these things that it maybe normally doesn't think about specifically helps the entire brain deal with it better, because again, like I said, your brain will start to create its own strategies if it's healthy to do something about your problems in life, to do something about the stressors, the frustrations in life. Okay, noticing them and labeling them is very important. Okay, number 2, what happens to neurons in stressed people? Well, the hint is up here. Okay, so have a look here and write your answers. Can people with toxic stress learn well compared to people that don't have toxic stress? Well, of course, we know the answer to that. And in your own words, please explain why not, according to today's content and whatever other knowledge you may have on this topic. And number 3, how can you motivate yourself to learn better? That's a big question. How can you motivate yourself to learn better? There are many ways to answer this, but I would like you to focus on this graphic I have at the bottom here, which this person is interested. This person is finding interesting points from the learning from the book, and has all these aha moments that are representative by these Christmas ornaments, versus this student over here that has decided, oh, this is boring. I don't need this. So please use this graph to and mix that in with your ideas and write your answers here. How can you motivate yourself to learn better? Okay, well, that's it from me on this portion of the chapter. We'll see you again next week, and I'm looking forward to seeing your answers in Moodle. Okay, goodbye.